I'm going to show you two scenes from Subnautica 2. Listen how in both cases the soundtrack absolutely elevates the environment, and listen for the sheer contrast between the two scenes. They are separated by only a few minutes of game time. At one moment you are completely surrounded by absolutely stunning, colourful visuals that are enhanced by a welcoming, melodic soundtrack. The very next moment you are constantly looking around yourself, paranoid of what's lurking in the deep, bleak waters, while the track that accompanies that sight is very dark and heavy. In this video we will talk about many other ways in which the soundtrack of Subnautica is in perfect symbiose with the gameplay, and how both the media support and develop each other. Let's get into it. One fascinating thing about the music of Subnautica is how it perfectly corresponds to the development of the story and the general progress throughout the game. What I mean by that is that it starts very lightheartedly, just as your first steps in the game, and slowly becomes more and more serious and dark as you dive deeper and deeper, and as you learn more about the tragic story of the planet that you have crashed upon. As you wake up from the unconsciousness in your life path, you are immediately treated to this view. It is an instantly iconic shot, thanks to the gigantic size of that crashed ship and the vast ocean surrounding it, as well as surrounding you. That feeling of awe mixed with dread is perfectly captured with the synthesizers. But the music is quickly cut, and what you're left with are just environment sounds. The wind, the waves, birds, silence. Or a lack of soundtrack at least, is another crucial part of its brilliance, but more on that later. After you've had enough of the view, you dive into the waters below you and you find yourself in the safe shallows, the safest, brightest and most colorful biome in the game. And the music kind of reflects that sense of safety. Your next destination is gonna be either kelp forest or grassy plateaus. The kelp forest theme is still kind of friendly and still offers a sense of mystery and curiousness. But the grassy plateaus theme already reveals a more sinister side of the music and a darker side of this planet. Those vast open spaces can be terrifying in itself, but when you account for the sand sharks lurking at the bottom of the ocean and those gigantic reefback leviathans, this can send shivers down your spine. It surely did send them down my spine when I firstly saw these monstrous creatures. With closer inspection you quickly realize that these guys are friendly, gentle giants, but you don't know that the first time around. And what's super cool is that you will most likely hear them first before you actually see them. And the noise they make can only be described as large. Which is of course fitting, but before you can see those guys, your imagination most likely creates a gigantic, sharp-teethed monster that is going to devour you whole. But anyway, both of the biomes introduce you to a hostile creature, the sand sharks in the grassy plateaus and the stalkers in kelp forest. Whichever of these biomes you visit first, each respective hostile fish is gonna be your first hostile fish you meet in the game. Well, if you are not counting this hellspawn. So the stakes get a little higher, and the same thing happens in the music. It gets a little more tense, little more serious, little more dark. And those qualities get more and more evident the further you get in the game. This is a lost river, one of the late game biomes, and this is its theme. Low and long droning synth sounds. The music is now much more focused on texture instead of melodies. Now compare that to the much more lighthearted, much more melodic early game music. It is night and day, isn't it? At the start of the game, your character is completely uninitiated. You're clueless about the planet you've landed on, its history, the virus, the aliens, etc. And as you learn more and more about the dark story of the game, the music kind of reflects that. It matures with your understanding of the situation you find yourself in. And one of the situations you will find yourself in many times throughout the game is this. You are swimming in the middle of a vast ocean, with the bottom deep below you and the surface high above you, with nothing clear in sight. Now tell me, what soundtrack, what music reflects the realization that you are a tiny little part of something so huge? None. None at all. The environment and its indefinite, ambiguous sounds alone create a perfect storm for the player to feel maximum discomfort in that situation. And the funny thing is that this wasn't even the primary intention. We will touch on this a bit later. The developers have a great sense of understanding when a certain scene needs an accompanying music, and when the best choice is to leave the visuals breathe and speak for themselves. I have recently came across a perfect example of this while playing Subnautica 2. A little bit of spoiler warning. I got to the edge of the map, and since I of course had played the first game and Below Zero as well, I knew that there will be some kind of creature ready to push me back to the playing zone. But the encounter with the Leviathan still got my pump racing, even though I was well aware of what's going to happen. And I think it's primarily because of the sound effects. When you firstly swim past the edge of the map, the only non-diegetic audio are those reverb chime-like synths. After a while, the music goes completely silent.
Oxygen.
And the only thing you can hear is your own breathing and some distant, unidentifiable sounds. Combine that with the fact that you are staring into a complete void all around you. Your thalassophobia peaks at this moment. And when I had crossed the playable area, a loud banging music started playing, which announced the entrance of the Leviathan. When I heard that growl and I turned around and saw that creature, I was shitting bricks. Such a memorable moment that is made possible by a tension created by silence and a subsequent climax composed by the contrasting loud music and the reveal of the Leviathan. And this happens all the time, not just in this one case. The game's audio, or the lack of it, constantly go through this loop of creating tension and releasing it afterwards. It is such an effective method how to keep the player engaged with the game. And it is also a really effective method how to scare the player, or at least make him feel very uneasy. This is in my opinion a huge part of the magic of Subnautica. The atmosphere that this game can evoke is unmatched. You can really feel the depth. You can really feel the helplessness of the character's situation. And it's all possible thanks to a strategic placement of the game's soundtrack. Just compare the two scenes from the beginning of this video. The Safe Shallows music is playful, making you feel very relaxed, right? But just a few minutes later, the joyful, easygoing piece of music is gone. All the music is gone for that matter, as you are staring into a much more unwelcoming part of the map. Now let's kind of blend these two previous sections together and summarize the point of this video. What's really interesting about the music of Subnautica is that it was never meant to be a horror music. And Subnautica itself wasn't supposed to be a horror game. At least not primarily. But both the game and its music can fit into the category of horror. So why is that? The short answer is that all these seemingly unrelated properties of the game that somehow come together and create this atmospheric horror experience. Take the Void for example. From developers' point of view, this is a clear concept. The Void is an imaginary line that borders the map of Subnautica. It was created for that reason, but the creators took this necessary game limitation and turned it into a part of the game world itself. They took the time to figure out why there is this steep drop into nothingness all of a sudden, and gave the reasoning for it in the story. I haven't touched on the Ghost Leviathans yet. Again, their purpose in the Void is clear. They are supposed to turn you back. But the developers also made sure that their existence makes sense in the world. You learn that when the Leviathans reach a certain length and height, they stop growing because they are too big for the environment they live in. So they move into the open space of the void to continue growing. That's why they are there. And it is this extra care the developers put into their game that makes it so amazing. The void could have just been a pixelated wall, and the Leviathans could be a pop-up window telling you to turn around and swim back. But instead, they turned the void into one of the most memorable places of this world. They turned a gaming necessity into a part of world building. And a pretty scary one at that. And now, how does the music fit into this? Most of the soundtrack is kind of ambiguous. What I mean by that is that most of the tracks doesn't give away its direction or meaning. They are like liquid. They don't have any shape until the surroundings give it one. In that way, the music is very similar to the one of Minecraft. I have talked about this phenomena in my Minecraft music video, so make sure to check it out. Basically, the same track can feel different way when it's played in different places and different circumstances. Take the Ghost Tree track, for example. From the get-go, this can feel very heavy, intimidating, etc. But with the visual of the Ghost Tree in-game, those properties turn into majestic, jaw-dropping, and beautiful. And this can also work the other way around. For example, when we have talked about the Grassy Plateau track, I had said that it was getting more serious than the previously heard Safe Shallows music. But that could happen only a few times. When you get much more deeper into the game, when you are traveling through the Lost River, facing the sea dragons and lava lakes and aliens in their facilities, the Grassy Plateaus doesn't seem that dreadful anymore. And the music becomes strangely welcoming, where previously you would get shivers hearing the same tune. So now let's summarize all the points made. We have talked about how the music gets more and more serious, how it evolves with the story of the game, how the initial tracks are more melodic, whereas the later ones focus more on texture. We had mentioned the developer's great sense for understanding the timings, on when you use a track and when you avoid any music in general. The silence is what makes a huge part of the atmosphere of the game, since the world of Subnautica can therefore feel much more real and present. And we had talked about how the music doesn't really have a set direction. It perfectly plays off of the visual part of the game to create some unforgettable moments. And this is it. That's my take on this wonderful soundtrack to this wonderful game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.